Hello, DEF CON, and welcome to Almost the End. So, just quick introductions. I'm Rich in Seattle, former DEF CON speaker, Black Hat speaker, and trainer in general, and the old guy on stage that is here with Netspooky and Chompie. Your mics, I think, should be on if you want to give yourself an intro. They're muted in the back, they're on. Oh, okay.
Hello? Hi, I'm Netspooky, online menace. Nice to be here.
I'm Chompie, professional poster.
Exploit writers, reverse engineers, everybody's too humble, but thanks for joining us. Hopefully you've all had a great week here at DEF CON. I'm gonna start off by talking a little bit about what the last 40 years of Phrack was all about. So in 1985, before the World Wide Web, before Tim Berners-Lee and us all having standard search engines and normal usage of the internet, Phrack was born on a BBS, which for those youngins in the crowd, a BBS was a direct dial into a self-hosted computer. Instead of using an ISP, you would just directly dial into a phone number, and there would be message boards and files, text files, and all that sort of thing. And that's actually where my roots come from. The early days, because it was before the internet, really focused on phone phreaking and getting free phone calls so that you could actually direct dial into other people's computers, and everybody were hosting their own pirated software and zero-day techniques and all that good stuff. So you'll know this era, the 80s until 91, because that's where the hacker manifesto comes from. All the ethos and the culture and just the dissent, the digital dissent, like we put in the title, is really just, it comes from this early area of exploration and corporations charging too much for phone calls, right? So. And then also, so in that, so of course with Phrack, you've seen the Hacker Manifesto, Smashing the Stack, all that good stuff. So so Metal Shop BBS was the one that it all started on in '85 with Taryn King. And interestingly enough, you may not realize this, but one of the papers they published in Phrack in the early days was on the 911 system, the E911 paper. And so the Secret Service decided that that was a little bit too far over the line, and they got raided in 1991. And Bruce Sterling wrote a book called The Hacker Crackdown that covers all this, and it's amazing hacker lore that you should check out. But in response to that, the EFF was created to put up a legal case for them, and actually the charges ended up getting dropped, so they did get away with it in the end, and this is the Hacker Manifesto era. 1992, the Legion of Doom took over, Chris Goggins, Eric Bloodaxe, and this era transitioned from pure phone phreaking to X25, which was leased line corporate internet, and also early mobile networks like AMPS. When Kevin Mitnick was getting chased by the FBI, he was using an Oki 900 and AMPS. Those types of papers were what were at Phrack. 96, Route took over, and that's where we have the release of Nmap, and of course the very famous Smashing the Stack for Fun and Profit, and memory corruption era kind of began. And then there was all kinds of, from the memory corruption and Smashing the Stack, in 2001 it transitioned to a group of people who are somewhat still involved today, but remain anonymous in the 2001 to 2005 era. And we have all these wonderful new exploitation techniques, ret to libc, format string exploitation, the Gruck writing binary harding, and also inventing concepts like living off the lands to avoid forensics. We also had the first heap exploitation papers. So, and then in this era were the first 3 physical copies ever created for Phrack, which were in 2001 at the Dutch hacker camp HAL. And this week we did one of our releases out in Y in the Dutch hacker camp as well. And as well as a couple years later at RuxCon, and then What the Hack. And then we had the transition to Mayhem and Tiago and Strauss and other folks, and the exploration of hacking continued to go deeper and wider at the same time. So after we got through x86 and some Spark and some very common CPUs, well, we then got into SMM hacking. We have actually Rodrigo here as part of Phrack staff. He's going to be available for questions. Wrote one of the first SMM boot kits and papers in there. We also had my favorite papers, which were Malak Maleficarium, the DevMem rootkits and things like that. And also Radare was released in Phrack. And we started to, OSX became relevant after they switched to, x86 basically. And we started to see some cool attacks that way. And now in the final era before we took it over, there was just continuing depth and exploration into, different types of heap allocators, hardened FTP servers, additional extensions of the heap allocation attacks, taint analysis, again, Rodrigo, BS Damon, Elf Master on kernel infection and K-probes, and more on the OSX direction. And I believe now I will hand it off to talk about the transition.
Hello. So, I'm trying to make this quick because there's a big, long, lots of stories we could talk about here. So essentially, I used to work on a zine. I work with Rich, TMZ, Chompie, several others on a zine called Temp Out. It was an elf virus zine, and we somehow got the attention of the previous Phrack staff, and we had a famous hacker attaché, this is the actual role that he's filling here, was the liaison for us to become the new Phrack staff, essentially. So it was really insane because I've only described this as, if anybody knows the techno club Berghain, imagine if they saw your little DJ stream on Twitch or YouTube with 4 viewers, and then they said, "Hey, we love your stream. Do you want to go run our entire club?" It's kind of what it felt like. And so basically, Grok hit me up at one time randomly, and I was kind of in shock for a while, and I just told him to come to our Discord, and we were able to figure it out from there. But it was super cool. They really liked what we were doing and felt that it was similar to the same spirit as Phrack and other older zines, and that is kind of how we got here. And so basically, once that happened, we were in a rush to figure out how to make a new issue of Phrack. It was similar to what we did before, but there's a lot more subject matter expertise that's involved. And we also made the choice to do a printed version, which we had to also learn how to do magazine layouts, which we had never done before. And so you may have seen them last year. We had 500 copies at DEF CON, and then people liked it so much they started to help us to fund doing distribution at other conferences as well. So you may have gotten different copies. Some of them had different covers. So this is our first release as the new staff. So if you got this last year, this was the representative of the Temp Out style Phrack staff. And so once that happened, people were actually into it, and we were like, what's next? So we wanted to try to help to expand our team and make it easier and more sustainable. And so we put out a CFP in around January, and it was basically up until June because we wanted to have it for right now. And so we got a bunch of different people to help out with us. We added more people to the staff. We expanded our team of editors and our arts team, and we had lots of outreach we were doing, and we even got people to help us with the PDF layout. And so everybody was super excited, but we still needed to get papers for the actual magazine, which is the kind of the harder part of this. And so we hassled a lot of people because we know people who are, involved doing all sorts of really cool research, and a lot of fresh faces that haven't been involved in writing anything like this before. We were trying to get everybody to just help us out with, or we're trying to get people to encourage other people basically to write for us. And we kind of got some common reactions in the room, sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. We had some common reactions from everybody who was involved that we asked. And we had, the most common one, I guess we'd say, was the elephant in the room here, which is imposter syndrome. We've realized, actually, you can go. Here, sorry.
So, the most common reaction was me, right, for Phrack. And we had reached out to friends, colleagues, strangers that we just admired, and that was the number one reaction. Like, I couldn't possibly write for Phrack. I'm not good enough. But the thing is like, we're doing a talk about Phrack on stage today, but Phrack is not about us. It's not about we are all Phrack. So if not the people that we really that make up the hacker community, then who else is going to publish? So we really wanted to hear from the next generation of hackers, and we wanted to keep the hacker spirit alive. And we really thought that this quote, "If not you, who? If not now, when?" really applied to the situation. Also, the second most common reaction was, "What is Phrack?" So believe it or not, even though Phrack is this iconic staple in the hacker community, a lot of really talented hackers that are young and just coming up didn't know about it. So we did a lot of educating. And so this talk is kind of the culmination of that and like all of our efforts reaching out. So after all of that, we're happy to announce Phrack 72. We accepted 16 mainline papers, 8 line noise, and we printed a whopping 15,000 copies across all of the releases. So this is our biggest release yet. So this release was truly by the hackers, for the hackers. We're so lucky to have a truly just like across the world collaboration across all generations, from people that grew up on Phrack to people that are just learning about Phrack now, contributing art, contributing logistics help, and of course, technical papers. And none of this would have been possible without their support, so we're really grateful. It's really heartwarming to see everybody come together to support Phrack and to keep this part of the hacker culture alive. So we want to give a huge shout out to DEF CON for helping support this release. This cover is specially designed for DEF CON. It was designed by Mar. And shout out to Hattori and Hardware Hacking Village for making all of the logistics stuff happen. Printing 10,000 copies there's a lot that goes into it logistic-wise, so it wouldn't have been possible without the support of everybody on the ground. So we, for 72, we're doing 4 different covers across that are being released across different conferences. So this is the cover for Y. This is the cover for Hope in New York City, designed by Digitalis and Portal. And that'll be available at Hope next week. So if you'll be there, pick up a copy. This cover will only be available there. And this cover is designed by the one and only Netspooky. It's super cool. That will be available to order a print copy online. And we have even more upcoming releases. So we're printing 1,000 copies for HitCon in Taiwan. We're printing some copies for Dragon JarCon in Medellin, Colombia, which is, I think, a first-time con. And also at AlligatorCon in Krakow. So we're really making this truly global and making Phrack's presence known at all the hacker cons around the world. And so when we were thinking about how do we make Phrack accessible, or how do we engage the hacker community in 2025, one of the ideas we had was to make it more interactive. So instead of just releasing articles for consumption, we wanted to engage the public in what Phrack is all about. And so coming out of that was the Phrack 72 CTF, which I designed. The core of it was to inspire collaboration. So to be able to play, you have to take a copy of Phrack that was obtained at DEF CON and take a copy of Phrack that's obtained at Y. And there's a QR code printed inside of the issues. You have to put them together to get the link to start to play. And the actual challenge of the CTF is 2 binary exploitation challenges. So one is targeting Linux and one is targeting Windows. So you'll have to Linux friends find your Windows friends find your Linux friends, and collaborate on that together, there's a special prize. So once that's solved, I think it's been out since the 8th. Both Y and DEF CON copies. So far, only the Linux challenge has been solved, so it's still unsolved. Whoever wins gets a super, super exclusive Phrack coin, and it also makes the Phrack 72 available to the public. So that is not available to the public yet, so you get an O-Day drop of Phrack 72. And of course, hacker cred, right? If you do a write-up, your write-up gets featured on the Phrack website. I actually designed the CTF to contain, based around some of my favorite bugs and bugs that I found in real life. So it's not like it's not a puzzly CTF. It's like a more realistic vulnerability research exploit development task. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of that. The other really special thing that I just mentioned were the Phrack coins. These were designed very carefully and beautifully by Acmage, who is also part of our staff. And it's our token of appreciation for everybody that contributed their hard work to staff and others that have helped make Phrack what it is. So solve the CTF, and you can too also have one and be cool. Please get involved. We're accepting papers all the time, so rolling submissions. We'd also love to hear your feedback about Phrack, and we accept any and all art. So please submit your art. And yeah, keep checking the website for updates on new releases. And thank you to everyone that made this release a reality. It's our biggest yet, and we are super proud and so happy with the positive feedback we've received so far. So now, we've also invited some past authors and staff to do a short little panel. So if you're here for the panel, can you please step up on the stage, and we'd love to hear from you. We have CTS here, that was an author for Phrack 71. We have Pi3, author for 67. And also Rich in Seattle is going to speak at the panel. Is that it? Rod? No? Okay. All right. Please welcome our authors. Thank you. Okay. Go for it.
And also, just want to say that, Phrack, it is a community project, and we couldn't make it happen without some financial support, obviously. And last year and this year, we reached out to some of luminaries in the industry who have, built companies, and they have all shown amazing gratitude and respect back to Phrack, because that's where we all come from. And I just want to specifically shout out a few names real quick. Doug Song, Napster, Sean Close, Niels Provost, the EFF, Mulvad, Horizon, the VX Underground, TourCon, HushCon, and Jeff Moss himself was a big contributor to this year as well. So how about just a round of applause, if you don't mind? Thank you. And also, who in here, just by applause, who got a copy of Phrack? Did everybody get a copy of Phrack? Yes. Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's go ahead with questions.
All right, so I'll kick it off here. We got 5 questions, and if we have some time, which we have only, I think, 24 minutes now, so we'll see. We might have some time for audience questions if maybe one person wants to ask something. So think of something you want to ask. So I'll start off by saying basically to the panel, introduce yourself and tell us about the first Phrack article that you read and how it made you feel. What you learned.
Hey, I'm CTS. It's a pleasure to be here today. Yeah, I think I read the first Phrack article was the Malak Maleficarum. Probably when I was, I think, 18. I was just learning how to pwn, and this is one of the things that I was taught to read. And I kind of realized like, whoa, there's this huge tradition that goes into this zine, and then I devoured like 20 editions worth of articles after that. So I didn't really get much homework done that night, but I was like, wow, this is huge. I had seen Phrack like linked around on the internet a few times. I'd visited the website, but I hadn't really read anything, and it was like above my like pay grade when I was growing up. So I didn't really understand any of it, but by the time I first started reading the Malak Maleficarum, that's when I was like, whoa, this is like real. This stuff is like 1337 as fuck. Yeah, is it okay to swear up here? Yeah, so ever since then, as a kid, it was like a dream to have contributed something to Phrack, and I'm really grateful to the team for helping make that dream possible. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Adam, and my nicknames, among others, was PA3. We had different nicknames because it was different time. I'm a little bit older, even I don't look older, and Phrack was actually the only real magazine at the time that you could get some kind of knowledge, technical knowledge about real hacking, if you know what I mean. If you want to write exploits, if you want to find 0 days, you want to weaponize them, there is actually was nothing like Phrack at that time. But this was also the time that even if you do that, you actually keep it secret because you don't know if in the future you need to go to some companies, find the jobs, and this actually may not even help you, but makes you even harder. So my first article which I wrote, it's a classic one, smashing the stack, obviously. However, after smashing the stack, there was so many great articles which was people just actually waiting for next release. I can shout out so many other great articles, like half that article about the crazy rootkits for double fault using CPU features. Then at some point I realized like I'm probably not gonna write an article in the such level as they did, but it happens that I managed to write one, and I think this is one of the greatest success from me personally. I don't think it's the greatest success externally looking like, but for my personal growth, I was very, very proud to be able to do that. It was also the time that the hacking scene starting to transition to slightly more professional industry, money starting to be involved. So at some point, Phrack was a little bit silent, and I'm so happy that we have Chompie, Netspooky, and Richard take over and making it the balls rolling forward and forward. So and we also have another actually author here, Rodrigo. Maybe you also want to say some sentence there. Thanks.
And I would say that I owe pretty much my entire career to Phrack. I founded on a BBS in the early 90s. It's what caused me to seek out other BBSs when I actually got on the real internet, which landed me in the Loft BBS, which is an old Telnet BBS. And to this day, I met friends on there that told me to look into ELF infection, look into kernel infection. One of my favorite papers, besides Malak Maleficarium, was definitely the dev KMEM kernel injection, a paper by SD and Devik. And these things, to this day, I still leverage the techniques that I learned about in viruses and in ELF infection in my day-to-day job, because I do fuzzing, and these days, in my mind, fuzzing is basically rootkitting a process so that you can modify data in transit. And where back in the day we might be trying to steal passwords or inject, some sort of authentication bypass or something. Nowadays, I use it to try to find bugs and, try to help secure software. But all of that stems from Phrack, and I'm so grateful as well to be a part of it today.
Thank you so much for those wonderful intros. We're also curious about your motivations. So, for example, what made you want to contribute to Phrack and share this information with others? In other words, why are you like this?
Okay, so that was a big question. I think there was 2 parts to it, right? The first is what made you want to contribute to Phrack? And
Yeah.
the second part is what made you want to share the particular knowledge that you wanted to share? So the first one is, I think I kind of went over this in my previous response, but per my previous email, it's been a childhood dream of mine to be part of Phrack. Yeah, I just really wanted to be part of that legacy, and just I know a lot of people who have articles, and I really look up to them. And like, I thought it was really, really cool when, for example, Live Overflow had like an article about the YouTuber hacker scene. I was like, that's so cool. Or like people who I've worked with at previous jobs. Like I used to be coworkers with Nemo once, I think. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I wanted to submit an article. And of course, just to share my knowledge with the world, which brings me on to the second half of my answer. So I feel like, so I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more. I am a CTF player, reverse engineer, vulnerability researcher, and then me and my friend Jazzy, we started a company that became relatively successful. And then through the course of that, I feel like I gained a lot of knowledge that most hackers don't really interface with. So for example, like fundraising, hiring people, corporate finance, that kind of stuff. And I thought the intersection of like being a hacker as well as like being like a startup founder was interesting because it provides you perspectives that you don't otherwise get to have. And I also get to explain like my lived experience in terms of like the cultural background that I have as being part of like the hacker or like security community, right? And it's also a way for me to give back. I, for example, like have a lot of times when I'm in like a Discord server and I hear people like talking about like some startup or like this like the, I don't know, like capitalism being like a broken system that's like destroying our entire world. And there's like oftentimes they like want to like make clarifications or like, hey, this is like correct, but also XYZ. There's a lot of times I want to help people see like, I guess like the big picture that it's really hard to see unless you've like had these things like happen to you or you see them firsthand, right? So that's part of the reason why I wrote the article that I wrote. And it's also because I wanted to encourage people to like think about how they can not just be like someone that capitalism happens on, but try to like reverse engineer the system and then take control of it just like we do with binaries and websites and so on and so forth. So that's kind of my long-winded response. Thanks.
Amazing, thanks.
Actually, what was the question?
Why you like this is the question.
I don't consider myself hacker, but thanks. Anyway, why did I write an article? It's actually a pretty interesting question because, and why Phrack? As I mentioned, from my mindset, Phrack was the only real magazine when you actually want to write something super deep technical. But again, time changed. That's not true anymore, but I still believe that the spirit of the Phrack is there in the air, yes? Why did I write this article? Because I actually wrote, some people may know me that I wrote a lot of 0 days in the past and under various names. And the 0 days which I wrote actually were using techniques which I thought are known. But turns out that some individual small techniques were known, but people didn't connect the dots to make them as a chain of various techniques who allows you to bypass mitigation, because my article about the bypassing stack cookies remotely, so byte by byte overflow, connected with few others, I actually wrote this on the Phrack. And when I being actually approached by some folks to write this article, I realized like why it's actually not as, I didn't think it's actually something that's considered to be accepted to Phrack, yes, but I think you mentioned a little bit here that you're slightly better than you think you are, and when I wrote this article, people actually said, yeah, it's great, I didn't thought it is, and so when I described these techniques, I chained them together, and I decided only Phrack can publish that. Yes, it's my personal goal. So I think this will be my answer.
Thank you so much. Amazing. See, even your favorite hacker has imposter syndrome.
Also, let's get a round of applause. Who was around when segfaults.net was still around? Anybody know? Was anybody there? So I have the same exact vibes as everybody else here on stage. You see something as high quality and phenomenal as Phrack, and you're like, oh my God, I'll never be good enough to publish in Phrack. It sets a bar. We want it to be inspirational. We want people to read it and hold it and say, oh, I want to be part of this someday. And I don't know if you all had a chance to actually flip through the zine this year, but you'll see some old school stuff like there's a North Korean hacker that got their box shelled, and their password files are in there, and there's all kinds of like old school throwbacks, as well as new school techniques like CPU backdoors and microcode, and it just runs the whole historic spread of what hacking is all about, what Phrack is all about. And yeah, so for many years there, I wanted to be involved, and there was a time period when Phrack wasn't publishing quite so much in the early 2000s, and I ended up doing Uninformed, a different zine, and that was all because I just still thought I wasn't quite good enough for Phrack. So we're all here just saying thanks to Phrack, and thanks to you all for being readers of Phrack and participating in Phrack, and we hope that you want to contribute and realize that you are welcome to be part of Phrack in general.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You want me to answer this?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, okay. I think he's good.
All right, cool. All right, so we only have 12 minutes left, so we're going to skip a couple questions and go right to the meat of it. How has exploit commercialization impacted publications like Phrack and other e-zines?
So I'll just comment on this one first. I actually worked at iDefense, which was the first company to offer bug bounties, essentially, by third-party 0 days from the public. And I would actually say that in that time, it was quite crazy because that caused a dissonance in the scene where people, had their different motivations and interests and whether or not exploits should be sold at all. And of course, now we've seen over the last 20 years the whole commercialization of the industry and the zine culture in general. There's a few of us still around. Shout outs to Paged Outs and to POC, GTFO. Of course, 2600 been holding it strong the whole time. But, people, because of the commercial interest, people wanted to start publishing blogs and all this good stuff, which is wonderful, but it's not community. Like, community is working together and growing together and teaching each other, not for personal motivation, but to give back. And that's really what the Phrack Spirit's about.
Yeah. I just also wanted to add on to the previous answer. I was really surprised when Netspooky reached out to me and asked if I wanted to submit. And then I was really surprised when I cooked something and he was like, yo, you cooked on this. Because I thought that this was going to be I was like, this is not even hacking. Is this even is my goat washed?
It is.
Sorry. Okay, so to answer the question about commercialization, I have some pretty strong opinions about commercialization. I think that commercialization is this force that is it's an unstoppable force. It will happen, right? You cannot prevent it from happening because it's the result of a million people doing whatever makes the most sense for them to get through their life. And it's just like you said, people publishing on their blog because it accrues to their personal brand, but it doesn't build a community, right? And we've seen that as well with the security industry. I think that it's not the same as it was, 20 years ago, even 10 or 5 years ago. I think that once people realize that they can start making money in security, the game totally changed, right? Even most of this big CTF teams now are sponsored by companies, and I don't know how I feel about that as a CTF player. Obviously, I'm well aware of commercialization. I've kind of bathed in it. I worked at a vulnerability research firm, 2 of them actually. I guess my opinion on this is that if commercialization is inevitable, you have to think about how you can make a difference and leave a positive impact while not trying to fight against the current. I think being no, we will never ever commercialize or ever get sponsors. I think this is kind of a bad strategy usually because you're fighting against the entire world. It's really, really hard. On the other hand, it's if you fight with the current behind you, I guess you have tailwind. I think that's a lot easier. But of course, that means you have to play inside the rules of the game, which is kind of hard. Yeah. Sorry if that's a really long and rambly answer. Maybe you have a better answer than me.
I think you touched most of the points, and I actually agree with most of what you said. So it's true, you cannot stop it. That's the life, yes. However, it doesn't mean that you must play in the same wild role, yes. There is some stuff that you can still be morally correct with yourself to be able to find out in this world somehow. Like some people also, it's true that also killing the spirit of the community, yes, because now if you go and publish the article and someone just use it for monetization, then you think, did I actually done something correctly or not? Yes, but in other hand, if you don't do it, someone else will do it, and it's just inevitable, yes, it's just going to be there. It's there, we need to live with this. I don't think there is much we can do, and until you still have a choice to be correct with yourself. Just be correct with yourself and you'll be still fine, I think, yes. And also there is, now the industry grows so much that industrialization of the exploitation is one thing, but there is other fields which are interesting, and you can also maybe find yourself on this more defense layer or this evolution of the ecosystem to make the commercialization of the exploitation a bit harder. It's also type of the stuff that maybe help you. So it's there. Let's do the best what we can do and keep the spirit of the Phrack.
Thank you so much. Just one last question before we open it up to the audience. So what has you all excited about hacking right now, and what is the future of hacking?
Okay, I have Mike. Maybe I will start. It's a very good question and hard. I think hacking, it's not tied to any specific field. Everything could be hacking in the end of the day. But if you're speaking about dev content, Phrack, I will probably stay a little bit in the computer. I think, and I can see through my job, which I do, that there is no specific now boundaries of the research. The research are bleeding across various different layers. We see the hybrid attacks. We see the attacks which is not pure software, not pure hardware. Like, for example, Rowhammer. For example, side channels, ISA bugs. So this type of evolution we can see in the industry, and I think it will be on the rise, yes. And also the defense mechanism is also research in the end, like modifying of the microcode, modifying ISA. It's becoming so hybrid, there is difficult to put the line, and I think it will be on the grow.
I think for the future of hacking, I think that the life cycle of any, like, I guess, technology or like platform is that it gets invented and then developed, and then people realize that this thing is useful. So then a ton of money gets dumped on it, and it like grows really fast and scales. And then because it's growing so fast, usually security catches up only later. So for example, with ISAs and DRAMs, those got like exponentially more complex and faster and smaller, and because of that, the security wasn't really there, and now we're finally figuring out like how to design processors that are both fast and secure, as well as like DRAMs that are both dense as well as like difficult to flip bits in neighboring cells. I think that hacking stuff is necessarily harder than using it in the intended way. So I think it's natural that like people find the bugs and exploits after the stuff initially comes out. And by definition, there's usually less people interested in breaking something there is in people like using that thing to like accomplish some objective. So like, yeah, like I think that binary exploitation is getting really mature. I think that like we're going to have really strong mitigations. Like, I mean, okay, my code is a bit washed, so I may not be totally up to date on the latest mitigations, but we're going to have like control flow integrity should be like everywhere in like 10 years, as well as like pointer authentication and some kind of like tagging. So you have like lifecycle enforcement and hardware for like heap objects, stuff like this. And it's also going to be up and down the stack to not just at like the, you know, runtime level, but also like at the application or the allocator, stuff like that. But there are other technologies that are like really immature. Like we saw a few weeks ago that T, which is this app that collects a lot of PII, got hacked because it was really, really insecure. Like a lot of bugs that happen nowadays are like stupid crap, like Supabase or Firebase, like not being configured or used correctly. Like blockchains are really insecure. AI is really hard to use in a way that's not like really broken. There was like a challenge in DEF CON CTF that was like, we have this like unhackable like way to like use RAGs with LLMs, and then I still like found a way to just like walk around it and prompt inject it still, right? Oh yeah, sorry, we're running out of time. Yeah, but I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's always going to be new stuff to break, and it doesn't have to all just be computers.
So yeah, actually, I was going to echo some of that myself. I was going to say, the mitigations have become very strong. We have things like Sherry coming out in the hardware realm that's going to do pointer tagging and all kinds of hardware enforcement. But what we've also, the last 10 years, what we've seen is mitigations have become so complex that they themselves are now actually kind of causing a drag on the system. Your Windows kernel is already virtualized with another microkernel below it, whether you realize it or not. And our hypervisors are getting more and more complicated and all that layer. But that's been the last decade. I think what's most interesting might be, in fact, kind of what you started to bring up there. We're about to have AI robots in our houses in the next 10 years. I mean, we're reaching the cyber to physical worlds transition where it's going to be part of everyday life and not just in industrial manufacturing and different things like that. And then also we have AI-generated code out there right now, which just last week they released a report on, and like 40% of the code being generated by AI right now has vulnerabilities in it. Now, you might think that's a high number. Well, guess what? Google, when they did their stats on OSS Fuzz, also found that about 40% of human-written code has regressions or vulnerabilities that they catch before they ship it. So, and of course, the AI is just mimicking what we do. So AI is as valuable as any other human, and we're about to allow a whole army of AI into our daily lives. So I think the future of hacking, of course, is going to be some intersection there. And yeah, we're about out of time. If anybody would like to ask a question really quick here at the end, there is a microphone over there.
We have a few minutes to take some questions from the audience if anybody wants to ask our lovely panel a question. Anybody?
Hell yeah.
No? All right. You want to rip it? All right. Well, that's it from us. If nobody else has questions, I think our panel and some authors are going to stick around if you want to come say hi and ask a question a little bit more intimately.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Give it up for CTS, Adam Zabrowski, Chompie, Netspooky, and I'm Rich in Seattle. Thank you.